But now there's something that I want to approach you guys about on a personal level. I'm starting an organization called One Vote, One Voice NC. This organization will assist the elderly in obtaining the ID that they will need in order to vote. It's not going to be as easy as everybody think it is, and it's not going to be cheap. And the elderly, they need our help. We need the help. Because your votes, we do not want to go back to the days of segregation and despair. We don't want to go back there. And if we don't all stand together and tell North Carolina and this country that you're not pushing us back, and we happen to slip back because we didn't do our part, we won't have anybody to blame but ourselves. So I'm asking you, what are you willing to do? You willing to stand in line for 12 hours? You willing to stand beside somebody for 12 hours? Are you willing to come out of your pocket and pay for somebody to get their ID so that they can vote? This is something that we have to preserve for. You guys preserved it for us. It's our turn to preserve it for the next generation. So I'm putting forth a challenge to everybody. Do what you can. Do what we must, because if we do not spark this fire back in our bellies for voting, we will find ourselves in a situation that, personally, I know some of you are old enough to remember black only, white only. I don't remember it. I never want to see it. I never want to live that way. So today, I'm asking you, stand. For however long it takes, stand. Forever how many times you got to voice your opinion, forever many times you got to shout, stand. Do not let them stop you from voting. If you do nothing else, don't let them stop you. I need help with this organization. Anyone out there know how to write grants? Please see me. I need help because this is new to me. So I just would like to end this by saying thank you, Ms. Taylor.
You're welcome.
Thank y'all for listening. I hope I pleased you.
Talk about Uncle Tom.
Oh, Uncle Tom?
Because I told her the other day, I said something about somebody, and she said, I said, well, that's probably just like Uncle Tom. Wait a minute, Mom. Let me tell you about Uncle Tom. So I said, well, you need to tell about Uncle Tom.
Everybody knows the story of Uncle Tom, Harriet Beecher Stowe. Uncle Tom has always been used as a stereotype to call the sellouts, black sellouts. I called Clarence Thomas Uncle Tom for years. And boy, anyway. When I went back and read Uncle Tom, he is no Uncle Tom. Amen. We need to take that stereotype of a passive person that's willing to lay down for the so-called master and the man, because Uncle Tom was not that. Uncle Tom was a noble, highly religious slave that stood up for his principles, stood up for his belief, and it cost him his life. He was sold to a gentleman named Simon LeCree, and Simon hated him because he wanted him to beat a fellow slave, and he refused. He later on in the story, he helped two slaves named Cassie and Emmeline escape. Well, when Mr. Simon came along and wanted to know what happened to his property, Uncle Tom refused to tell it. So Simon put his overseers on and beat him to death. Now see, this is what makes Uncle Tom not a sellout. This man, while he was dying and his last breath, he asked for their forgiveness. He forgave them for what they had done to him and wanted his death to ring true that this is not the way this is supposed to be. Slavery is ugly. And Harriet Beecher Stowe, that was her main objective, was to show how ugly slavery was. After, I think about 100 years, the story went out of print for a while. When the civil rights movement came along, Uncle Tom got picked back up. But when they started reading about Uncle Tom and saw his passiveness, instead of looking at it as God's grace of getting him through that slavery, they tried to make him look like, oh, he just laid down for the man, or he just gonna step. No. Go back and read Uncle Tom's Cabin. You will see a different man. And we need to stop calling sellout Uncle Tom, because if they were anything like Uncle Tom, they wouldn't have a price tag on them. Thank y'all so very much.